How would you feel if you knew that you couldn't break any of your bones and you were unbreakable? Yes, my name is Brandon, aka the Brando Critic, and I'm here to tell you if Unbreakable is still worth a watch. And you guys will have to forgive me, I'm just getting over a really terrible cold. So if I sound sick in this review, I apologize. But like I said in the intro, my name is Brandon, and it's my job to point you in the direction of movies worth checking out. So if that sounds interesting to you, please consider hitting that subscribe button. So in Unbreakable, we have David Dunn, played by Bruce Willis, and he is a security guard at a football stadium. And when we meet him, he's just really down on life. You know, he's depressed, he's having marital problems, him and his son aren't connecting. Just happiness doesn't seem to be a part of his vocabulary or a part of his mantra. But as the movie starts, we see him get into this terrible train accident, and we see him walk away with not a single scratch or broken bone in his body. So after this incident, he runs into Elijah Prince, played by Samuel L. Jackson, a man who has a condition where his bones are like glass, and they call him Mr. Glass. And he has an extreme obsession with comic books, and he thinks that David may have extraordinary abilities, and not just super strength, but the ability to have premonitions of terrible events. And from there, slowly, and I mean slowly, David goes on this journey to find out who he is and discover his powers. Now, I didn't actually grow up with this movie. I've actually never seen it before until this week because, hey, this new Glass movie's coming out, and I feel like I should probably watch Unbreakable and Split before it comes out, so I watched Unbreakable. And is it worth a watch today? Yes, very much so, and here's why. Now, I just said that this movie is slow. Now, normally that would be a complaint for superhero movies, but for this movie, it is really refreshing to see a movie take its time with its characters, with its story, with its intrigue, with its suspense, and not just feel like they need to rely on CGI, a big villain, or any doomsday device. This is a movie about how maybe a normal man in real life would find out about his superpowers. There's no radioactive spider, there's no giant asteroid coming down from space. It's just a man finding out, I can actually lift a lot of weight, I don't get injured, I don't get sick, maybe there's something different about me. And it's told in a more dramatic and thriller-like fashion. This isn't your typical comic book movie. Yes, it deals with comic books, and yes, it deals with superheroes, but it is not your average superhero movie. Throughout the entire movie, you just know that something isn't right. You know this is an M. Night Shyamalan movie when you're just sitting there and nothing's happening on screen, but it feels very unsettling, like really unsettling. You know, Bruce Willis and Robin Wright are just talking to each other, and there's a lot of silence, and there's a lot of staring, and it just feels very unsettling, but intriguing. And on top of that, M. Night Shyamalan doesn't throw in just normal camera angles, like shot, reverse shot. He puts in a lot of strange camera angles, which just adds to the unsettlingness. Like the very first scene in the movie, it's shot on the train, and it's shot in between the seats, like if you were a little kid looking behind you in the train, and it's very strange. It's kind of a unique way of filming a scene, but it's another way to show the audience that something just isn't right here. Because normally this scene would be shot, reverse shot, but we're gonna be using one continuous shot and going in between the chairs, and it's very strange, but very intriguing. But don't worry, this movie isn't all dour and depressing and sad. What they do that's really clever in my eyes is that there are those triumphant superhero moments, but they're very few and far between, and they're really toned down from a movie like X-Men or Spider-Man or any other superhero movies that were coming out around that time. You know, most of the movie is in silence. There isn't that much music, there's hardly any action in the movie, but when there is a bit of action or when there is a bit of music, you really do feel this sort of sense of euphoria and a sense of hope for David Dunn and his family, as this discovery kind of gives him purpose in his life. And because the slow buildup, you really do see that David is depressed and how life is really boring and dour. The camera angles are not very exciting. There isn't much action, there isn't any CGI in the movie. His life is just, it's shit. But slowly but surely, there are tiny little moments that make him feel like a superhero that you want to keep watching, and you're gonna go, yeah, David, you're a superhero, you can save people. And on top of that, solid performances all around. They are acting like they're in a drama. Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Willis, Robin Wright, they know that they're not in a superhero movie. They're in a drama about a man who's going through depression, who through these superhero-like abilities starts to find hope in his life. It's not just big doomsday device coming down from the heavens and they're gonna destroy the earth and it's up to David, the one man who didn't know that he could. No. The story is on a very small scale, and that's what I like about it. It's very refreshing to see that, because you go to a superhero movie today, like Aquaman is in theaters and I haven't seen it yet, but looking at the trailers, it looks like one of the most expensive movies ever made. You know, we have Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, you know, all these big superhero movies, they feel like they have to outdo one another. Unbreakable is just a human story about a guy who just happens to have superpowers. And his superpowers aren't that extravagant. He can't fly, he can't web sling, he just is really, really strong. And there's a wonderful scene of him and his kid just lifting weights, and he tells his son, you know what, that was pretty heavy, can you take some weight off? But he actually puts weight on, and he realizes that, you know what, this is actually pretty easy. Put some more weight on, and you see him just try to test his powers. And it's little moments like that that aren't these extravagant moments that we're so used to seeing nowadays. It is nice to go back and have a movie that's held up by story, by character, by intrigue, and not by action, not by CGI, not by the big bad villain coming down from space to destroy the earth. This movie is held up by the fundamentals of what any movie should have. And that is why Unbreakable is worth your watch. So as for a rating from me, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 because I really enjoyed this movie. It was so intriguing, so refreshing, and with all the big MCU and DCEU movies coming out right now, it's fun to see a superhero drama rather than a superhero blockbuster. So anyways guys, thank you so much for watching this review, and I want to ask you, what is your favorite superhero movie that is not in the MCU and not in the DCEU? Can be X-Men, could be Spider-Man, could be Fantastic Four, could be Blade, could be this. Who knows? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to know, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Take care.